Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Neil Howard. Thank you so much for returning for another segment of Health Professional Radio. We'll be speaking with Dr. Tahi Ahmadi. He's joining us here as Executive Vice President and Chief Medical Officer, Head of Experimental Medicines at Genmab. He's going to talk to us about a recent FDA acceptance of a biologics license application for their compound DuoBody. Welcome to Health Professional Radio, Dr. Ahmadi. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us a little bit about your professional background and how you came to be Executive Vice President and Chief Medical Officer at Genmab.
Sure. In very short terms, I'm a hematologist oncologist. I originally did my training in Germany in the 90s, and then came to the U.S. to do some research. Later on, ended in my academic career on faculty at the University of Pennsylvania as a lymphoma expert primarily, and then joined the industry in early 2012. My first role was at Janssen, where I was initially involved in the approval of Ibrutinib, and then my second role led the development of daratumumab, which became Darzalex at Janssen. And then finally, at the end of my career at Janssen, was the head of early development before I joined Genmab in early 2017 and really started to help build the expansion of the company, which at that point was more of a research-focused organization to what it is now, more or less mid-sized biotech now.
Now, I understand, and I did say that the FDA, U.S. FDA, has accepted for priority review the BLA for DuoBody. Explain to us what DuoBody is and how it works. What is it indicated for?
So DuoBody is really the proprietary term that we use for our bispecific platform. And so the Genmab bispecific platform is in some regards different than a lot of the other used platforms in the industry in that it works based on two parental cell lines. And it really took its clues from IgG4 and the way IgG4 in nature exchange Fabs. Meaning that there are two cell lines. They have specific mutations, essentially what is called a knob and a home mutation. And in a controlled oxidation redox reaction, you can separate the two Fab arms and then realign them as bispecifics because they have a preference to realign as bispecifics. The main advantage of the DuoBody platform is because of this process of starting with two cell lines, and there's this very efficient exchange of Fabs. You can, in the lab, screen something to the order of several thousand. We have an automated miniaturized combination of specific antibodies and epitope variants such that you find the most optimal combination of two arms that have the appropriate biophysical spacing in order to elicit the mechanism of action. In this case, for Epcoritamab, the mechanism of action is the redirection of T cells.
Now, you did mention that it is indicated for several types of cancers.
Well, the DuoBody is a platform, right? What we're talking about right now is a compound called Epcoritamab, which is a CD3/CD20 DuoBody using the DuoBody technology. But what it is that has a CD3 arm that grabs T cells and a CD20 arm that then connects to B cells, and it redirects the T cells to B cells, and that's the mechanism of action. Now, because the target is CD20, this mechanism is restricted to B cell malignancies that express CD20, which are classically diffuse large B cell lymphoma, follicular lymphoma, mantle cell lymphoma, and lymphocytic leukemia. So broadly, the spectrum of B cell malignancies, and we are interrogating it in all of these settings, though the initial submission is focusing on an indication called large cell B cell lymphoma, which is a little bit of a broader umbrella on diffuse large B cell and related large cell diseases.
Is there a huge unmet need for patients with these types of cancer, and what is the approval going to mean for this community?
Yeah, so the diffuse large B cell is an interesting disease in that a priori, upfront, there is actually the opportunity for cure, which is not that common in oncology. So roughly half of the patients get cured. However, the other half once they relapse, are incurable, and in the relapse refractory setting actually have a very short survival, meaning that the median survival right now with standard of care is roughly 9 months. So there's a huge unmet medical need for those patients who have not been fortunate enough to get cured. And the initial indication that we are seeking is in patients who failed 2 prior lines of therapy and are not candidates for auto transplant. And in this particular indication, there is a significant unmet medical need. This is an area where CARs, chimeric T-cell receptor cells, have been approved as a mechanism and have really shown great impact, but are incredibly expensive and also logistically very difficult for access. So what we hope to achieve with this off-the-shelf variant of an antibody is a much more widely available, also in the community, in other community settings, not necessarily in a university setting, available therapy that is more affordable, and also its cost for the healthcare system in general, and has very similar comparable efficacy, and to the point that we have patients now who for more than 2.5 years are in complete remission, and raise the spectrum of the possibility that this mechanism could actually eventually lead to curing patients that currently are considered to be incurable.
As far as the ages of these patients are concerned, is there a specific reason why it is targeted at adults at this point? Is that just the norm, or are there specific differences in adult and children's conditions make it not suitable for children at this time or to be tested in children?
Well, we actually have a pediatric plan, which is kind of common when you are seeking approval, that you also have a pediatric plan. But having said that, the indications that we're currently investigating are indications predominantly in the adult population, very rare in pediatric population. Now, there are CD20 positive B-cell malignancies, for example, Burkitt lymphoma, that are existent in the pediatric population, and that is where, as part of the broader development, we are also starting to look into it. But the main focus right now is on diseases like diffuse large B-cell mantle cell lymphoma or follicular lymphoma that are predominantly and almost exclusively in adult patients.
Tell us, what are the next steps for your compound, your platform?
So we have a very broad development plan that is trying to address a number of potential biological applications for Epcoritamab in the broad spectrum of B-cell malignancies, as I mentioned, from diffuse large B-cell to follicular lymphoma, mantle cell, CLL, both as a single agent in the more relapse refractory setting, but also in combination with standard of care in more earlier lines, including frontline. So we have a phase 3 ongoing already in combination with lenalidomide, rituximab in follicular lymphoma. We have a phase 3 ongoing already in diffuse large B-cell frontline in combination with R-CHOP, and there's certainly more to come. And
where can listeners get some more information?
Well, you can always go to the website, Genmab.com, and you will find out that Genmab is a company focused solely on the research and the development of antibody solutions at this point to oncology, and we are one of the oldest still independent antibody specialized companies, if you will. We've been founded in 1999, so we have a 24-year history in innovation in antibody-related technologies and antibodies.
And that would be www.genmab.com, correct?
Right. Thank you.
Dr. Ahmadi, I appreciate your time this morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Health Professional Radio, and hopefully we'll speak again as things develop with you, Ahmadi.
Thank you. Looking forward to it.
You've been listening to Health Professional Radio. I'm your host, Neil Howard, in conversation with Dr. Tahi Ahmadi. Audio copies of this program are available at hpr.fm and healthprofessionalradio.com.au. You can also subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, listen in, download at Anchor, Spotify, and be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/healthprofessionalradio.